Imagine being offered just a few dollars, only to discover that your own body had become a laboratory. The walls of an ordinary prison in Philadelphia hid a nightmare that lasted for decades. Behind locked steel doors, hundreds of inmates unknowingly became human test subjects. Chemicals were injected into their skin. Dangerous drugs were forced into their bodies. Some experiments left permanent scars. Others left questions that still haunt history. Tonight, we're opening one of the darkest classified files ever recorded. Welcome to the Classified Protocol. This is the terrifying story of the Holmesburg Prison Experiments. Our story begins in Holmesburg Prison, located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. Built in 1896, Holmesburg was meant to hold criminals. Instead, it became one of the largest human experimentation sites in American history. By the 1950s and 1960s, the prison was overcrowded. Many inmates were poor. Many were desperate for money. Researchers saw something else, a supply of human test subjects. For just a few dollars, sometimes as little as $10 or $20, prisoners volunteered for experiments, often without understanding the real risks. What sounded like easy money would soon become a living nightmare. The central figure behind these experiments was Dr. Albert M. Kligman, a dermatologist from the University of Pennsylvania. In 1951, Kligman visited Holmesburg Prison. According to his own later recollection, when he saw the prison population, he reportedly thought he had found an ideal place for medical research because of the large number of available volunteers. Over the next 2 decades, Kligman and other researchers conducted hundreds of experiments inside Holmesburg. Many of these studies were funded by pharmaceutical companies, cosmetic manufacturers, and even the United States military. The prisoners signed consent forms, but many later claimed they were never fully informed about what was actually being done to them. What exactly happened inside Holmesburg? The answer is disturbing. Researchers deliberately exposed inmates to powerful chemicals, highly concentrated skin creams, experimental medications, shampoos, deodorants, industrial chemicals, and even toxic substances. To study skin reactions, chemicals were repeatedly applied directly to prisoners' backs. Some developed severe burns, others suffered painful blisters. Many were left with permanent scars. But one experiment stands out above the rest. Researchers tested dioxin, one of the most toxic chemicals ever studied. Dioxin exposure caused painful skin disease known as chloracne, large cysts, severe acne-like lesions, and permanent skin damage. Some prisoners received doses far higher than what would ever be considered safe today. Other studies involved radioactive materials, mind-altering drugs, infectious agents, and products whose long-term effects were completely unknown. The prison had effectively become a human laboratory, and the inmates were the lab rats. By the early 1970s, public opinion about medical ethics had begun to change. Investigative journalists and activists started exposing what had happened inside Holmesburg. Questions were raised. Were prisoners truly able to give informed consent? Or were poverty and imprisonment used to manipulate vulnerable people? As criticism grew, the experiments eventually stopped. Years later, many former inmates reported lifelong physical problems, emotional trauma, and the feeling that they had been treated as less than human. Holmesburg Prison itself finally closed in 1995, but its legacy remains one of the darkest chapters in the history of medical research. The Holmesburg Prison Experiments remind us that some of history's greatest horrors didn't happen in secret underground bunkers. They happened in ordinary buildings, under the name of science. The real question is, how many stories like this are still buried in classified files, waiting to be uncovered? If you enjoyed uncovering one of history's darkest mysteries, make sure to like this video, share it with fellow mystery lovers, and subscribe to the Classified Protocol. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss another classified case, hidden experiment, or forgotten conspiracy. Until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and remember, some secrets were buried for a reason.